parties. But it is true to say that many of the minor parties are not happy with the government's behaviour here. The government is obviously treating the Parliament and the people of Victoria with contempt, claiming executive privilege on one hand for a document that's been around for at least a year. We know that for a fact, or almost a year. And why is the government not prepared to release that document? If they're saying on one hand it has executive privilege, on the other hand, we might release it. Well, let's get the document in the public domain. Let's basically comply with the rules and with the directions of the Chamber and release the documents, all of those documents that have been ordered by the Chamber.
So David, how long until you actually request for Jack Symes to be
we will put the notice of motion on tomorrow. It would be a matter for non-government business next sitting Wednesday, and we would seek the documents be provided by the 30th of April. That is the sitting day after that. Now, in the case of the documents that we would send to the arbitrator, the independent arbiter, we would seek that as quickly as possible. We will ask the clerk and the president to appoint somebody to arbitrate on these documents, on the lay documents, on the injecting room documents. We don't believe that they are privileged documents. We believe they're ordinary, everyday documents that ought to be able to be obtained by the Chamber and ought to be in the public domain.
Has this ever happened? What's the precedent?
Well, there are certainly precedents for upper house ministers who've not complied with document orders being put out of the Chamber, being relieved of their duties in the Chamber for a period. So there are certainly precedents for that. And indeed, there's High Court cases to that effect.
How long would you be looking to?
3 days. 3 days. But that is a point for negotiation. The preferable outcome would be that the government provides the documents.
Yeah.
The government just provides the documents. That's what the purpose of the orders is, and that is what the government ought to comply with. If they provide the documents, nobody will be out of the Chamber at all.
That's still until May, right? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yep.
And sorry, how long would the arbiter look at the lay report before they...
This process has not happened here, so it's a new process. It has happened in New South Wales, and the standing order here that this is applied under, and you'll see in the notice there, is modelled on New South Wales. So they have a standing arbiter, and we will seek to have one appointed and have them determine independently, privately, whether the document should be released. We think it should.
John, do you think the government's changed their mind on a second safe injecting? Do you reckon that might be behind this hold-up?
It may have changed its mind on a second drug injecting room, but what's clear is it doesn't know the way forward. We're seeing conflicting messages in the media almost every week. We're seeing different ideas being floated about whether it's proceeding, its location and the like. Remember, the government has already spent $45 million on a building in Flinders Street for that purpose. We already know that there's been several years of the Ken Lay report and other reports into this. So the government has spent the better part of $50 million not reaching a conclusion at all. The business community has been very strong. I think Victorians are very strong. They don't want their city to see another injecting room. And that's why it's important for Jacinta Allen just to release the report. What's wrong with taking Victorians into your confidence, trusting them, trusting the people with these important documents? For us, as the opposition, we don't see any justification for that, and we're not going to take the government at its word anymore. I don't think anybody can take the Allen Labor government at its word anymore. And when it says it will release the document in its own good time, when it suits the government, well, that doesn't suit the Victorian people, and it doesn't suit the CBD community, businesses and community organisations alike. The right thing to do here, the ethical and principled thing to do here, is just to release the report. Instead, what we've got to do now is we've got to negotiate with the upper house crossbench. We're confident we'll reach an outcome, but we're taking nothing for granted. But we're going to give the Attorney-General, Jacqueline Symes, another opportunity to comply with all of the outstanding documents, production motions that are before her. She's thumbed her nose at all of them. So we'll give her a second chance. If she fails and the motion gets up, then there'll be a suspension that will follow. We shouldn't need to resort to the independent arbiter to rule on the question of executive privilege. Everybody knows this document doesn't attract executive privilege. The government said they're going to release it. It's been talked about openly. The government has selectively leaked bits and pieces around the lay report and the process around it. So let's not let the government get away with this. Do the right thing, the ethical thing, and just release the report today, because we'll now have to use parliamentary time holding the government to account in circumstances where the government should just do the right thing.
Are you concerned about the eventual arrival of fentanyl in Australia and whether this whole process is basically stopping us from addressing these problems head on?
Well, that's a discussion and obviously an issue we would want to address in a lot more detail. If the report and issues it addresses shed light on that, we have a right to know about it. We know that drug use and dependency on alcohol and drugs around our community is getting more serious, not less. So we want all of the information, the best data we can get, and if the lay report can help shed light on that, then of course we want that. It's very much the reason why we're pursuing it so much.
Just on another matter, can you confirm if your two former senior staffers have been ever given government payout?
No. This idea of a payout, Simon, is just wrong. My understanding, and it's managed between the former staff and DPC, but my understanding it's limited to the normal statutory entitlements of any unused annual leave and notice. Beyond that, I can't comment and I won't. It's a matter for them.
Should Matthew Guy have declared that he was a Freemason in his register of interests?
Look, I think this article was really unfortunate in the sense I don't think it was justified, and it was totally unfair on Matthew Guy. Matthew complied with the Register of Interest, has at all times, and no one's been able to point out exactly how he didn't do that. He's complied. I think the article was dreadfully unfair on Matthew, and the insinuations that are in the article were unfair as well.
Do you have confidence that he's obeyed the rules the whole time and you've spoken to him about this?
Yeah, I'm totally confident in Matthew, and I'm glad that he's part of the Coalition Shadow Cabinet. He has an enormous contribution to make. You all know Matthew. You know, he has great knowledge and experience and great passion for public life, and I'm totally confident and thankful that he's a part of the team.
Would you be happy to see nuclear reactors?
Look, I think this is a discussion that we should proceed with very methodically and at all times bringing the community with us. I think people who think seriously about the future of renewable energy and low emission generation of energy all understand that at some point nuclear, like so many other countries around the world, will almost certainly form part of the mix. Now, no one's pretending that's going to be tomorrow or next week. We're talking years, possibly decades in the future. But I think we just need to be sensible. And I don't think people should treat the debate as one about extremes. I think it's all about just a sensible discussion about what's done around the world. At all times, though, I think, as my colleagues and I have pointed out, we proceed with the community coming along with us, and we know attitudes are changing to this subject. And make sure that as far as possible, bipartisan support on this is going to be necessary, locally here in Victoria, but around the country. So I think people should just proceed, calmly and methodically through this discussion.
Does that include Peter Dutton?
Well, I think Peter's doing that. I think Peter's made it very clear that they want to talk to communities, and he's doing that from everything I can see.